Hey everybody, it's Ryan, and I'm going to talk about mobility. Not showing any stretches, but I wanted to kind of help you understand kind of why I recommend certain things and why you should do certain stretches, and just kind of getting a better understanding of what it means to be more flexible and understand what mobility is. As you know, I'm a big Kelly Starrett fan, and a lot of my learnings comes from Kelly Starrett on the mobility WOD. I'm a pro subscriber. I also watch a lot of his videos, and I also have his book, The Supple Leopard. I'll leave a link in the description of The Supple Leopard, a book that I have. And it's also, it helps with just kind of understanding just human mechanics. And some people are interested in this, some people are not. But everyone wants to know a stretch, and I think that's important that you know stretches. But I think it's important you know why. Because if you don't know why, you'll do a stretch and it won't really do anything for you, or you won't keep doing it. So one of the things that K-Star always talks about is different arch types of the body. Spinal mechanics, shoulder mechanics, and hip mechanics. So these mechanics allow for proper movement. They allow for the engines of the body to move fluently and effectively. And I'm really big into anatomy, and I love anatomy, and I'm also NASM certified, so I have corrective exercise certification, and I have education with an experience working with real people and helping solve other people's problems one-on-one. So I combine a lot of the knowledge that I get from Kelly Starrett and mobility WOD, the mobility WOD, and also my certifications and experience, and kind of and try to fix myself. Basically, I try to create this picture. And the two arch types that Kelly Starrett talks about is the shoulder flexion and external rotation. And just so you know, what this is flexion of the shoulder, right? And this is external rotation. Now, this is a very important movement to have. Now, if you look at me with my hands above my head, the common thing to do, like you do an overhead press or just push something above your head, the normal inclination for a stable shoulder joint is external rotation, right? And a lot of people who have poor mobility in the shoulders can't create that movement. So when you can't do full flexion and external rotation, you're trying to find it. So usually what will happen if you have tight shoulders, you have trouble being in this very, very stiff position, which is full flexion and external rotation. And then out here, you come out here. The reason why you'll come out wider is to give yourself some forgiveness in the shoulder. This allows for a little bit more space of movement, basically more flexibility. Kind of the reason that a lot of people will go a little bit wider in the squat when they can't go low enough, because they have some restriction. But the one thing I wanted to talk about with this specific thing is that this is sort of the reason why people hit shoulder impingement, is because when they get their hands above their head, say do an overhead press or just any kind of movement where you're kind of transitioning from below the shoulder joint to above the shoulder joint, is that what ends up happening is that your hand goes above your head, and then you try to create this external rotation force. I'm just turning my palm here because I can exaggerate this movement. Is that when you're not able to create this movement properly, the only way you can get behind your body, like let's say I'm reaching for something behind the car, right? I'm seeing my elbow is kind of pointing forward, my armpit is pointing forward, and I reach for something back here behind my back seat, for example, right? Now, if I can't reach or my shoulder's too tight, I have to default to a really bad motion, which is internal rotation, dumping forward. Now, why is this bad? Well, because it creates a really bad position for the shoulder. Now, if you're just reaching something in the back of your seat, that's probably not a big deal, especially if it's something light. But if it's something heavy and you already have existing shoulder problems, you might freaking irritate something. Of course, if you're strong, you probably won't, but just understanding kind of what this is. So like just same thing with the hands above the head, if you can't get this good external rotation position, like I have a lot of limitation on this side because it's very tight, the only way I can get above my head is I have to dump forward by bending my elbow. So if I bend my elbow, I can get a little further back. But then in order for me to bend my elbow, I have to internally rotate. And that's kind of what makes the shoulder unstable. And this is sort of what happens when you have a bad shoulder or when you have shoulder issues. This is kind of like one of the faults that occur. So everything you're trying to do is you're trying to prevent that movement. You're trying to prevent this dumping of the shoulder forward. You want that tight shoulder joint when you're pressing heavy weight, whether it be bench or overhead press. The next arch type that I want to talk about too in relationship to kind of training is the bench press arch type, which is the bringing the elbows back. Basically the opposite of what I just showed, which is, this is called shoulder extension, and then internal rotation. Now you might say, I thought internal rotation is bad. Well, it's not bad if you're going to a bench press, because when you bring the bar to your chest, what's happening is your shoulder joint is going into extension while the humerus here is internally rotating. Now, if your arm is not able to, if this upper arm here is not able to internally rotate really well, what's going to end up happening is that your shoulder will dump forward like this. So if I go back, I'll dump forward. Why do I do that? Because my internal rotators are too tight. I'm missing internal rotation. So what I really want is if you keep your chest tall, arch your back, tighten your stomach, come back, and this tight shoulder position with a tight shoulder blades back allows for this upper arm here to kind of internally rotate, and the shoulder goes into extension, into a stable position, and then you can push out of internal rotation, out of extension, into flexion and external rotation. That way you can produce the maximum amount of force with a stable joint. Now imagine if you're not able to do these movements correctly, right? What's going to happen? Well, you're going to hit shoulder impingement. You're going to have issues with maybe possible tears, irritation in the joint. But remember, the body is a very complicated system. It's a very proficient system, so that means that it can deal with a lot of these bad movement patterns for a very long time. And when you start to get hurt and you start to have pain, it means you've been doing something wrong for a really, really long time. And I sometimes forget this. If you're hurt and you have some sort of pain, it means you are experiencing pain because of doing something wrong or making a movement fault for thousands and thousands of reps. So take things to consider. Hope you like my video. If you like this video, please click like. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Looking to make more interesting videos that kind of relate to helping people get better at lifting weights, getting better at fixing themselves, and just sharing my philosophies when it comes to training, mobility, nutrition, and whatnot. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.